Hello again, and welcome back to the composition vlog. It's been about 2 weeks since I last filmed, and I'm happy to say I've been getting back into work, so I do have something to report this time, which is quite nice. It's been a bit fits and starts. I did a good bunch of work sort of straight after the filming last time and had a couple of bad days, and I'm kind of getting back into it now. But I have work to report on both the Britten Variations and the next track in the Studio Sound series. I don't know if that's its actual title. It's developing a title. So straight after the filming I did last time, I recorded some sounds that I was making with the books in the red bookcase in the corner. And then I didn't do anything with them until this morning when I thought I better actually listen through to these and see what I've got. So I listened through to them, cut them up, catalogued them, and I've started sort of putting those into a structure, building some phrases and just sort of seeing what might be done with it. I think there's some quite nice sounds in there. They're a little bit dry, which I'm perfectly happy with. I know some people don't necessarily like dry sounds, but yeah, I mean that may change once it's got a bit of reverb on it perhaps. We will see. But there's no actual piece for that yet. There's just some sounds that I quite like, but I'll keep working on that in the next couple of weeks, obviously. So the Britten Variations has actually made quite a bit of progress. Last time I was talking about playing in order to get back to work, and I kind of applied that to the Britten Variations. I can't remember, I think I did mention a while back that I was working on a score that was based in collage. And while I really enjoyed doing that and all the sticking and the drawing and so forth, that was really nice, I actually found it really stressful, and the thought of trying to get back to that and that question of, oh, what bits do I want to use, because I don't want to print out a whole lot of stuff that I'm not going to use that'll then be wasted, or have to do like one sheet that has one small fragment on it because I only need one. Yeah, and then there's the whole business of, I've stuck this down and now I don't want it to be here. Do I have to lift it up, and is the paper going to tear? Stupid ideas, but, you know, brains. Yeah, so I kind of liked the approach, but I was really stressed by the practicality of it. So I was sort of thinking about other ways I could do that, and I realised that I should be able to use some of the drawing apps that I have on my iPad to basically do the same thing, but without the whole papery, cutting up, gluey business. So I tried a couple of things, and I got stuck on the learning curve with Procreate because I've had it for ages and I've never dealt with that learning curve. So I went back to what I think might have been the very first app I ever bought, which is Autodesk's Sketchbook app, which is quite good. And so I scanned the manuscript paper that I'd been using to use as a background, and I took the original PDF that Amy had sent me of the original Britten and sort of turned it into a JPEG and cut it into little pieces and uploaded them all onto my iPad, which took kind of a whole evening doing all of that. But it really made a huge difference, because I was able to just sort of plop things down and hide layers and move things and draw over the top of them and rub things out, and of course it just carries on. It really made it a lot easier to just focus on the work and not worry about sort of how I was doing that. So I cobbled together over the course of a few days sort of an outline of the first movement. I have to confess that I am absolutely dreadful at looking at notation and being able to hear it in my head. Abysmal. It's not my strength at all. So the approach I kind of took, rather than feel that I had to sort of sit at a piano and test things out and go, oh yes, that's the bit I want now, was to think more about sort of structures and the size of intervals. You know, are they close together, are they far apart, what strings things would be likely to be played on, and to sort of think about repetition and sort of similarity and change, and to build a structure using these kinds of elements out of the original material. Yeah, and so I finished that and I was quite happy with it, but it was really, I felt a little bit, it's sort of weird because I was happy and I was dissatisfied at the same time, which is sort of a strange place to be. And I was sort of really trying to think about, well, why isn't this actually working? Because I felt when I'd done the collage the first time that it was quite satisfying, and it did feel like there was a certain amount of me in there, or certainly enough me, to counteract the Britten. And so I did a bunch of writing and drawing, and sort of in one particular session, I remembered that one of my supervisors, sorry guys, I didn't write down which one, had said something about that I was the variation in the piece. And so I'd thought about it a bit at the time, and it made sense, but I hadn't really thought about it in conjunction with what specifically that meant in terms of the piece. And so I spent sort of about an hour just sort of writing through ideas about that, and came to a couple of realizations which I think are going to be significant in where this goes, well, where it has gone. Yes. Which is that the pitches and intervals that Britten uses are not the sort of pitches and intervals I would have used back when I was writing music that actually used pitches and intervals. A lot of that work was done using ciphers, and I would kind of outsource, as it were, what pitches I wanted to use, so long as I liked them. And I found that a very, very good way to work, and the cipher that I use is one that was used by Onega. And it just turns up pitches that I like and intervals that I like. And so I thought, well, what if I then go over it and use a cipher and adjust any pitches that don't fit with the cipher to be something that does, which I did, and I was actually very happy with that. Once I played through the original, I thought, well, it seems a bit kind of dull and dreary, and I mean, it all sounds better on the cello than on the piano anyway, but it just didn't really go together, I didn't feel. And the whole thing just felt kind of like, well, chunks of Britten, which obviously it is, but that's not the effect I'm looking for. Sorry about the lighting, the sun keeps coming out, I don't know what it's thinking. Yeah, so, but once I put the cipher on it, it felt a lot more like me, and it just sort of pulled everything together, sort of, and made it just all a bit more convincing. Obviously I still have to hear it on the cello, but I'm really much happier with how that's sounding now. And the second thing that I worked out sort of in the course of this mad writing session was that I haven't worked with pitch for a number of years now, as I'm sure many of you are aware, and yeah, I certainly haven't worked with harmony in any meaningful way. So yeah, and I realised sort of, in particular sort of for quiet songs, is that what I've really focused on is tone colour and variations of tone colour, and sort of how that then changes the material underneath. And I have learnt a lot from quiet songs, I think, about the different tone colours that are possible on a string instrument. And so what I want to do is to use that knowledge and sort of pull that into this piece, and work with Amy probably quite closely to determine sort of, well, how are we then going to, we've got these pictures here, which are, some of which are Britten, some of which are mine, because I've left little chunks within the score that are pure Britten. So what you see in the image I'll put over this, the dark blue annotations are changes I made putting the thing together in the first place, and then the red annotations are applying the cipher, and then you'll see light blue boxes here and there which outline pure Britten content. And so it's kind of like looking through an altered upper layer into the pure Britten at that point. I've left some quite large gaps because I still want to use a tape part behind this, but I haven't actually revisited the tape part at all. Yeah, but I was very pleased with how the ciphers worked. It's altered it enough that it still feels connected, but but it feels a lot more like me. And yeah, it just takes it a step away from that original material, and for some reason it seems to have actually, whereas before it felt quite sort of dismal and fragmented and broken, it's sort of pulled it all together and just sort of somehow it's sort of made it all one thing, and then these separate sections are sort of holding their own. So I'm really quite pleased with that, really. Thank you, Mr. Oniger. You're a good lad. Yeah, so that's the first movement drafted. I haven't really gone through and done much with tone colour yet. I suspect most of that will be done in my meeting with Amy later on. I have noted a couple of bits that are going to be white noise, and they do have pictures they're associated with at the moment, and I'm thinking that'll be some kind of white noise on that string or on that side of the instrument or something. I'd like there still to be a connection to the original notation, even though I'm hoping the pitch will be pretty much gone from those moments. Yeah, so that's where that's up to, and I'm quite pleased with that. And so my next step is to draft and basically go through the same process with what will be the second movement of the piece, which uses different material. Each of these is going to be quite short, I think. I had thought of making them longer, but I think it's possibly better shorter. They're neither of them using very much of the original material, and I think I'd rather have a few short movements than try to really push it any further. I think it's more about refining that material into being more me-ish than it is about sort of trying to stretch out a great big long thing. I did think about maybe doing like an introduction and coda to it as well, and just having like really minute movements that perhaps just take perhaps the beginning and the end, although I'm not sure now that I've used the first chord in this movement, and just really stretching them out in some way, and just sort of really kind of just pull that to pieces as sort of a framing device, perhaps. I'm not sure about that yet. It just sort of popped up, that idea, and I've still got to do something with it, obviously. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, please leave them below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. Bye.